Thanks for coming out tonight. As you may have seen, we announced earlier today, I think the biggest news that we've had, at least in a couple of weeks, we have the federal designation, disaster designation was made. President Trump made that earlier tonight, which means this is the first step in really unlocking federal assistance through FEMA that our community so badly needs. As I've said in the past, our city, no city can shoulder the burden of a natural disaster the size of the tornado that hit us on May 16th alone. It is absolutely impossible to do that without the assistance of FEMA. And so we are so grateful to our governor for submitting the request, our senators, both Josh Hawley and Eric Schmidt, for having our back and pushing this forward, and Congressman Bell. We know that it takes a concerted effort, especially in the political climate in which we are in right now, to make this designation possible, and we're very, very grateful for the support. And frankly, we couldn't have done it without a coordinated approach here.
What details right now do you have about the money that's coming in? How much? Where is it going to go specifically? What do you know right now?
Right now, what we know is just this is the first step. And so the details are going to be forthcoming. We don't have them right now. We know that that there are several waves here. We have unlocked essentially the first step of individual assistance. Following that, there'll be a public assistance component. We're looking at making a request to the Army Corps of Engineers and a whole host of other things. But this was a critical first step, an important first step, and a successful first step. And so here we are. We're very grateful to be here.
Senator Schmidt tweeted out $71 million. Is that the number you've been told as well?
I'm not sure about that number. What I'll say here is I am certain, I feel very confident that we have some federal assistance coming our way.
The process to apply for FEMA is not the most straightforward in the world, and FEMA doesn't have as many employees as they did as when Biden was president. Did you expect the city government's going to have to provide an educational campaign on what they're going to have to do to get this critical equipment?
We do anticipate that we're going to play an active role. We're going to be required to play an active role, and we are positioning ourselves to be ready to play that active role. We've been anticipating that from the beginning and really trying to understand all the ways in which we need to collect information for that to be possible, and we're ready to do that work.
Mayor, is this enough money?
Elliot, we don't know how much money it is right now. And so, as I mentioned, we're really unlocking this in waves. And so we'll be able to better determine that as the days, weeks unfold and the amounts and the level of assistance becomes clear.
How do you feel about this development?
I do feel I feel great. Look, as I've said 100 times, we can't do this alone. No city can, nor should any city be forced to go at this alone. And this is a very first step in getting the federal assistance that we so badly need. I feel fantastic. I couldn't feel better. I know this is just a first step and we have a long way to go, but this is a really important milestone and I'm grateful we're here.
You say this is the first step, but what's the next step then?
As we kind of walk through this, that'll become more clear. As I mentioned, this is the unlocking of the beginning of the individual assistance. We have a public component. We also have the Army Corps of Engineers. There's a whole host of other things that we need to combine into our full ask here. But again, this was an important first step. Really glad we're here. I don't know exactly what the future looks like. I just know that this is moving us in the correct path. As I mentioned in the neighborhood meeting, this is my first FEMA ride, hopefully my last, but this is new to all of us. But of course, as we move through this, we've got some great partnership at the state and the federal level, and we're going to leverage them as we go.
Did you get any sense of why the disaster declaration wasn't approved sooner, given especially, and I know that in Kentucky more people died than here, but Kentucky's was approved 6 days after the tornado. It took 3 weeks for us.
I can't speak to that, Jason, but I'm glad we're where we are right now.
Mayor, have you heard anything from the president? Telling you, he feels for the situation or is with you, anything. Have you heard anything from President Donald Trump?
Well, I have talked to Governor Kehoe, as I mentioned, and he had spoken directly to the president just minutes before he talked to me, and he did indicate that the president, was hearing the calls from him, from his office, and from many others, and that was really understanding the depth To some extent, at least, of the destruction here. Otherwise, I don't think we would have gotten the designation that
But
we
you
got.
have not heard personally.
I have not
from the
heard personally from the president, but I do look forward to, and I welcome that call. As I mentioned to the governor, I'd be ecstatic to have President Trump here to see, feel, to understand the destruction that we've had, to see the personal impact, and I would welcome the opportunity to take him on a tour myself.
This might be a question for Governor Kehoe, but do you know where the public assistance timeline is before he submits that declaration to the president?
We have been working around the clock. We had been preparing that weeks in advance. I'm very confident that that's in a state that we can submit as a dovetail to this. So that's not something we were waiting on the first piece to start moving on. We've been moving along with that all along.
When can citizens, residents suffering from this tornado, when can they expect help?
The details of that, Elliot, will be forthcoming. I don't have the answer to that right now. We know that FEMA has far fewer employees than they used to, so this is a new world for us, and I think a new world for the nation. So I don't have the details, but we are going to do everything in our power to get them here as quickly as possible and to get relief to our community as quickly as we can.
Can you quantify the damage that has taken place and also how much money is needed to help with support?
It is so hard to do that. We're guessing about $2 billion at this point, but it's really hard to say. I mean, we just haven't had the manpower to fully assess the extent of the damage. So there's the damage to the public infrastructure. There's obviously just a huge toll on of our communities, personal homes, their businesses, the trees, Forest Park. There's just a whole host of very, very real costs, but then, of course, the human toll, the trauma that we have experienced, the trauma that our community has experienced, that are still experiencing, is something that we haven't been able to wrap our heads around.
Is that $2 billion in total, including in the county, or just in the city?
That's just the city's component.
$2 billion in the city.
That's what we've.
We'll be getting a lot more information as we move forward, so let's just do two more for tonight, and then we'll keep
Mayor,
getting you information.
Yeah.
Mayor, what would you tell citizens that this new development means?
This means that we are moving in the right direction, that we have the attention of our president, that FEMA is paying attention, and that we are unlocking the first step of the federal assistance that our community depends on, needs, and this is an important first step moving forward.
We're looking at potentially 60.5 in individual aid. Just speak to the fact that small businesses, families could have that help in a couple of days, couple of weeks.
I don't think this is going to be a matter of a couple of days. This is a first tranche. I don't want to give false hope here. I want to make sure that people know that this is just a first step as we move forward. And this, as I mentioned earlier, as we recognize the FEMA staffing levels have gone down, we don't know exactly what this looks like, but it is an important first step in getting the aid that we need to our community.